Single mom's hidden mistake revealed. Billionaire X transfers 1M, says no more cheap formula. Sarah sat at her kitchen table, her fingers trembling as she stared at the phone's screen. The message was both shocking and infuriating, a knife twisting in her gut. How dare he? Jake, her ex-husband, had flaunted his riches since their divorce, but this was a new low. $1 million, a sum she could only dream of, offered to her as an insult. No more cheap formula. The text echoed in her mind, dredging up anguish she thought she had buried long ago. Every word dripped with condescension, masked as a generous overture. It wasn't that she didn't want the money. Hell, the thought of saving Lily from even a trace of the hardship she'd endured was tempting. But accepting it felt like admitting defeat, relinquishing the fight she had waged alone since Jake had walked away from their marriage. The judgmental glares she received in the grocery store flashed through her mind, whispers of she should have done better. But better? What did that even mean when you were drowning under bills and the weight of your past? As the sun poured through the window, warm against her skin, her thoughts drifted to the old letter she'd discovered earlier that week. A rundown property, left behind by her great-aunt, now held the potential for a new life, a real home for her and Lily. She imagined the two of them painting the walls together, laughter filling the empty rooms, but then the harsh reality crashed back in. The renovations would cost money, more than she had, more than the meager savings she was slowly accumulating. Her emotions twisted like a tempest. How could she ignore the sting of Jake's remarks while he dangled money in front of her like a carrot on a stick? Would accepting his offer mean sacrificing her hard-fought dignity? She had built a life for herself, albeit unsteady, waiting tables at the local diner and ringing up groceries part-time, but it was hers, one born out of grit and resilience. And yet, the voice in her head whispered, what if it could make things easier? Wouldn't that be worth it? For Lily's sake, before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Amidst her swirling thoughts, Sarah walked outside, the brisk air a stark contrast to her bustling mind. She stood in front of the faded property, its peeling paint and unkempt yard mirroring the chaos within her. The ghosts of their past lingered here, whispers of dreams once shared, now reduced to rubble. Could she truly reclaim her life from the remnants of what Jake had torn asunder? Tough decisions twisted in her gut, each moment heavier than the last. Lily's laughter echoed inside her mind, sweet and innocent. Would she understand if Sarah chose pride? Or would she resent her for it later? The memory of her daughter, eyes wide with belief, urged her to fight. But with Jake's demeaning words cutting through her thoughts, she felt the conflict grow. Gripping her phone tightly, her thumb hovered over the screen, torn between accepting the insult of his offer and protecting the legacy built from love and sacrifice. Would this be her redemption or another chain binding her to the past? The tension rose within her. How could she navigate this minefield? Tomorrow loomed, and with it, an uncertain future, one where she must find the courage to decide once and for all. The morning light spilled into Sarah's modest kitchen, illuminating a space still cluttered with the remnants of last night's frantic thoughts. The phone lay silently on the table, a reminder of Jake's message that weighed heavily on her. She inhaled deeply, trying to gather her thoughts as Lily played in the other room, blissfully unaware of the struggles dancing through her mother's mind. Every day felt like a battle. Waiting tables at the diner was becoming a routine of exhaustion, but it also provided her with a sense of accomplishment. Sarah had trained herself to find pride in her work, relishing the connections she made with kind customers who appreciated her effort. Yet today, the pleasant chatter of patrons felt distant as she wrestled with the implications of the money Jake had offered. Should she ignore him or confront him? Both options filled her with a mixture of dread and frustration. There was more at stake than merely accepting a check. It was a confrontation with her identity. Would she forever be known as the single mother who needed her ex-husband's charity? The thought churned in her stomach, but beneath the shame roiled an unexpected ember of determination. Her thoughts drifted back to the property she had inherited. It was more than just a dilapidated house, it was a beacon of potential. Overcoming the uphill battle of renovation would be daunting, yet she realized it could represent not just a physical home but a new beginning for both her and Lily. If she poured her heart into that place, perhaps it could be a symbol of her refusal to buckle under the weight of past grievances. As the day passed, Sarah began to sketch out plans for renovation in her notebook. She envisioned bright, colorful walls, a small garden where Lily could play, and a cozy kitchen where they could create memories. Each stroke of her pen transformed her anxiety into tangible goals. Yet, lingering concerns about finances loomed like shadows in the corners of her vision. What if she failed? What if her efforts drained her emotionally and financially? The restaurant buzz of conversation replayed in her mind like an old record, pulling her focus back to her job. That evening, a regular customer, Mrs. Thompson, thanked her for the excellent service. The warmth of that moment fueled her resolve. As she cleaned tables and served meals, Sarah found clarity in the details: how each slice of pie brought happiness, how each smile from patrons highlighted the small victories that made her day worthwhile. By the time she returned home, an idea began to form, one steeped in determination. Why accept Jake's money when she had the chance to build something real with her own hands? She could reach out to friends for help, explore grants for single mothers, or even host a garage sale to kickstart her renovations. It was time to turn her raw emotions into action. She had to step into her own power, unafraid, unyielding. That night, as she tucked Lily into bed, Sarah realized her daughter needed to see resilience, not just hear about it. Tomorrow, she would refuse the money but ask for advice instead. It was a small yet pivotal move toward reclaiming her narrative. As she settled on the couch, fatigue weighed on her eyelids, but she felt an unshakable drive bubbling within. The future was hers to create. In the flurry of emotion, she had unwittingly uncovered not just a fight for dignity but the realization that she could carve out a path much greater than simply offering a polite refusal. The next day loomed before her like an open road filled with both uncertainty and promise, but now, for the first time in a long while, Sarah felt she was finally in the driver's seat. Tomorrow, she would confront Jake not just to reject his offer but to affirm her independence, to assert, "I can do this myself." As she drifted into sleep, the final spark of thought flickered insistently. Could she truly transform her inherited property from rags to riches, or was the weight of her past too heavy to escape? As dawn broke, casting a soft haze over the worn kitchen, Sarah felt the walls closing in, yet was buoyed by an exhilarating rush of newfound agency. Today marked the moment she would assert her independence to Jake, shedding a layer of uncertainty that had clung to her for too long. Her mind buzzed with preparatory thoughts, alternating between strategies of confrontation and self-reassurance. Lily, completely absorbed in her shiny toys, painted a picture of innocence that tugged at Sarah's heart. It was a stark reminder of why she needed to act now, not just for herself, but for her daughter. The necessity to model strength and determination pressed heavily on her. Every decision from this point forward would shape the narrative she wished to weave into Lily's life. Leaving the house, Sarah took a few deep breaths to temper the nervous flutter in her stomach. The diner always provided a comforting rhythm to her day, the familiarity of the clinking dishes and the sounds of conversation. Yet today, as she slipped into her uniform, she couldn't shake the weight of what lay ahead. The smell of coffee filled the air, but instead of offering warmth, it ignited an urgency within her. As she served customers, every smile and every kind word from the regulars felt grounding, as though they were unwittingly coaxing her into action. Sarah glanced down at her notepad, filled with sketches of her renovation plans. The vibrant colors and hopeful outlines reminded her what she was fighting for: transformation, not just of a house, but of her life. During a lull in the chaotic lunch rush, Mrs. Thompson, ever astute to Sarah's moods, leaned in with a curious expression. "You seem different today, dear. What's brewing in that mind of yours?" The question flared her courage. Mrs. Thompson had always been a pillar of support. I'm rethinking some things, Sarah replied, determination seeping into her words. I want to renovate my inherited home. I think it could be a fresh start for us. Mrs. Thompson's smile was warm and understanding. You're a capable young woman. If you ever need help with planning, I have plenty of contacts. The offer threw Sarah into contemplative motion. She had overlooked the potential network of allies surrounding her. Instead of battling her insecurities alone, she could harness the strength of community. The thought buoyed her spirit. It suddenly dawned on her that the renovation wasn't just about brick and mortar, it could involve a collaboration of collective wisdom, bridging knowledge and resources with those who cared about her. As she wiped down the last table, her thoughts drifted back to Jake. He would be expecting her to crumble under the weight of his offer. Would he even understand her ambition? The betrayal she felt when he suggested his financial support felt too raw to fully contend with now. Declining his offer didn't mean rejecting his role as a father, it meant proclaiming her capability as a mother. When the shift ended, the sun dipped low in the horizon, painting the diner a lovely gold. Sarah's heart raced as she recalled the plan she had formed over the last few days, a conversation to express not just her rejection of his money, but a challenge to align their visions for Lily's future. The moment arrived with Jake sitting across from her, an air of calm confidence enveloping his presence. The tension rose, heavy with unsaid words. As she looked into his eyes, something ignited within her. Jake, I can't accept your money. I need to do this myself. It's about proving not just to you, but to myself, and to Lily, that I can create a future for us, she declared boldly, her voice firm as her heartbeat raced. Jake's brows furrowed in surprise, and Sarah held her breath, awaiting his response. She was ready to face whatever might come next, but she was less prepared for the challenge that lay behind his growing concern. Would he defy her assertion or, worse yet, reveal why he wouldn't let her go so easily? In that moment of silence, their worlds hung delicately in the balance, and Sarah sensed that this confrontation would be pivotal, either forging her independence or deepening the rift, threatening her resolve. The outcome would set a course for either empowerment or a familiar retreat into uncertainty. Just before Jake spoke, she could feel the ground shifting beneath them, an impending storm brewing on the horizon. Would she emerge victorious, or was this just the beginning of yet another fight? The air was thick with tension as Jake opened his mouth, the words hanging in the space between them like fragile glass. Sarah, do you really think doing it all by yourself is the right way? His tone, a soft blend of disbelief and concern, struck at a fundamental fear within her. She steadied her breath, refusing to back down. Why wouldn't it be? I want Lily to see her mother as someone who builds her own future, not someone who relies on others for support. As the floor beneath her felt steady, she realized that this was more than just about rejecting money. This was about redefining her identity in the eyes of both Jake and their daughter. Jake leaned forward slightly, an attempt to bridge the emotional chasm. I'm just trying to help. My offer was meant to ease your burden, not to undermine your capabilities. There was sincerity in his voice, but Sarah felt hot frustration rising within her. He did not understand the battle she was fighting. It's not about your money, Jake. It's about my pride. I don't want to feel beholden to you or anyone else. I want to know I can do this, that I can make decisions that shape our life. She saw his brow furrowing deeper as he processed her words. For a fleeting moment, she feared he would backtrack, plead, and draw her back into old patterns. Would he truly grasp her determination, or was his vision still clouded by past decisions? Look, Sarah, he said, the exasperation cutting into her resolve, I've been where you are. Trying to do it all alone can lead to mistakes, and I won't stand by and watch you make decisions that are going to hurt you and Lily. Each word was an arrow, striking at her insecurities. She fought the urge to defend her every past mistake, to explain how she had slowly uncovered her own strength despite setbacks. Yet that urge was met with the stark truth of what he said: there were mistakes she had made, decisions taken in blind ambition. But those relatively small missteps weren't the defining legacies she wished to instill in Lily. I'm not blind to what I don't know. That's why I want to learn, to ask for help when I truly need it. But help cannot come with strings attached, it changes the whole equation, she replied. The firmness in her tone surprised even her, a commitment to stand steady on her own shore. There was a long pause as Jake seemed to wrestle with her assertion. Sarah felt the emotional tide pulling him, a recognition of the weight she was trying to lift. Yet, he remained immobile. She sensed he was building his counter-argument, as if he had rehearsed the script in his mind for when she would inevitably falter. The offer is still on the table, you know, he finally said. But if you refuse, what happens when you stumble? If things get tough, don't you think it'll be too late for regrets? It was hard not to feel the temptation of safety in his suggestion. Could it guarantee a smoother path? Or would it only serve to keep her shackled, undermining the very foundation she was striving to build? The hand she had extended toward independence seemed to tremble ever so slightly. What I see is a choice, she replied, drawing strength from her own resolve. I want to confront difficulties head-on and figure it out with knowledge and grit. I want Lily to grow up seeing that tenacity is more valuable than monetary help. I refuse to let fear dictate my decisions. The emotions surged between them, a raw vulnerability sharing space with hardened resolve. Sarah could see the struggle laid bare in Jake's expression too. Conflicting feelings painted his features with concern and frustration. Is that really what you want? He asked, skepticism coloring his words. Each heartbeat felt charged with consequence. Sarah knew the answer, and this time she was unprepared to shy away from it. She wanted to show her daughter that independence may feel like a heavy burden at times, but it ultimately forged resilience. Just then, the diner's door chimed as a new customer entered, momentarily pulling Sarah's focus away. The weight of the world faded, leaving her breathless with sudden clarity. Here she stood, shaping her own narrative again, anchored in her newfound agency, yet uncertain of the final destination. The familiar sense of coffee and pie flooded her senses again. She could sense the stakes rising higher. The resolution that would come from this moment, whether acceptance of help or a firm standing on her own, felt imminent. But would Jake capitulate to her resolve, or would this spur a more relentless struggle? I want to be strong, Jake. I need you to understand that, she concluded, a mix of hope and trepidation lingering in her voice. Jake stared at her, his jaw set, powerful emotions flickering across his face. She sensed a turning point, yet uncertainty reigned. The tension thickened as they lingered in the silence, presenting her with another puzzle to solve. But now she had the tools to decipher it. What fresh revelations were waiting to unravel in this evolving saga, and what would she ultimately risk to face Jake head-on? The silence enveloped them like a cocoon, wrapping each unspoken doubt and unexpressed sentiment in its folds. Sarah's heart raced, not from fear but from a deep-seated resolve that surged through her. She was exhausted from waging emotional battles and yearned to emerge victorious for both herself and Lily. Jake's eyes pierced her, a mixture of longing and urgency reflected in his gaze. What did he see when he looked at her? Was it the woman who had fallen from grace in his eyes, or the one who stood determined and defiant, ready to rewrite her story? She locked onto his eyes, silently challenging him to recognize her transformation. Can we just acknowledge something? Jake finally broke the thick silence, his voice laden with a cautious but urgent tone. You're trying to achieve something incredible. You're finally carving out a space for yourself. But from where I stand, it seems like you're teetering on the edge of a precipice. The word struck her with an uncomfortable clarity. He was right, she was in uncharted waters, with each wave crashing as she tried to maintain her balance. But this was her journey, and she wouldn't let anyone steer her course. I'm taking calculated risks, Jake. Yes, it's unsettling, but I have to trust myself. I want to learn to make choices that reflect who I am now, not who I used to be, Sarah responded, her determination igniting a fire in her voice. She recognized the growing strength within her, a feeling she hadn't embraced in years. Jake shifted in his seat, uncertainty etching lines on his brow. What if this risk turns into a mistake that you can't undo? You're thinking about the now, but life, Sarah, it's about the long haul and the commitments you make along the way. With his words, Sarah felt threads of her past fears weaving back in. What if he was right? What if, amidst her resolve, she was heading for another disaster? She straightened her back, refusing to entertain twisted paths of doubt. I'll own whatever mistakes I make. I'm choosing to navigate this journey on my own terms. If I fail, that's my consequence to carry, not yours. The intensity of the moment crackled as she held her ground, embodying the strength she wanted to exemplify for Lily. She was not just standing against Jake, she was standing for her vision of self-reliance and authenticity. I respect your ambition. I really do, Jake conceded, his tone softening, but his gaze still clouded with an underlying worry. I just can't shake the concern that in striving for this independence, you may overlook the strength that comes from collaboration. None of us are meant to do it all alone, especially for our children. Sarah took a deep breath, absorbing his words. There was a nugget of truth hidden within his concern, and wrestling with it felt vital. But collaborating and compromising did not equal surrender. She could acknowledge his perspective while remaining steadfast in her convictions. I appreciate your concern, Jake. But teaching Lily the value of independence involves letting her see me tackle life's obstacles head-on. I want her to feel empowered, to know that she can rely on her own resources and skills, Sarah articulated, her voice steady yet fierce. Jake paused, searching her eyes as if trying to decode a complex puzzle. What if there's a compromise? I don't want to change you, but I'm here for support, and you can still be independent while accepting my help. Composure wavered within her. Was he asking to alter what she had finally begun to define? The tug-of-war between her aspirations and the comforting idea of accepting help was almost tangible. Let us define help differently. If you want to support me, allow me the space to grow beyond what I was, she proposed steadily. I need to explore my own path, even if it's messy. The conversation began to slow, but its implications echoed deeply in her mind. Could she balance independence with collaboration? She needed answers, but the understanding she sought felt dangerously close at hand. With the diner humming around them, Sarah sensed that the horizon might finally be turning toward clarity, but she was unprepared for the next step the universe might demand of her. Let us revisit this soon, she decided, standing up resolutely, but uncertainty gripped her heart about how they might redefine their relationship moving forward. As she turned to leave, the bell above the door jingled again, drawing her attention. In walked an old acquaintance from her past, a glimmer of unexpected tension swirling around him. What revelation loomed beneath their inevitable confrontation? In that moment, Sarah realized she might have to confront more than just Jake's perception of her struggle. The moment her eyes locked onto the familiar figure crossing the threshold, a ball of unease twisted in her stomach. It was Ryan, someone she hadn't laid eyes on since the chaos of her past began to take shape. His presence drew an immediate thread of anxiety, a reminder of how intertwined her past mistakes were with the life she desperately wanted to move away from. He strolled in with the kind of confidence that implied he owned the room. The bustle of the diner faded into an echo as if the world outside held its breath. She knew Ryan well. His charm had been intoxicating once, but now it felt suffocating. They were not on equal ground anymore. She was forging a new path, or at least trying to. Sarah, he called out, the smooth timbre of his voice slicing through the gap between them. Long time no see. Emotion surged within her, pushing against the walls of her resolve. She composed herself, shifting her focus back to her intention. What are you doing here, Ryan? She replied, forcing a steadiness into her tone. Ryan approached, his demeanor relaxed yet condescendingly polite, as if hoping to bridge the vast chasm of the years between them with an outstretched hand. I heard you were back in town. Just wanted to catch up, see how life has been treating you. Her instincts screamed to retreat, to grasp the clarity she'd achieved in recent months, but deep down, a flicker of insecurity ignited. Why was he here? Memories surfaced uninvited, the reckless nights, the promises that became false endings. More importantly, she could almost hear Jake's echoing words about collaboration and support. Was this a moment of compromise or a temptation to slip back into tangled connections? "I'm not sure there's much to discuss," she replied curtly, her heart racing as self-doubt flooded her. It felt crucial to stand tall, to embody the independence she had been proclaiming. "I'm focusing on raising Lily, making a better life for us both." Ryan's smirk felt too easy, too self-assured. "I can help with that, you know. I have resources now, a much better position than when we were, well, whatever we were." That tight ball of turmoil inside her twisted again. The idea of accepting help proliferated more anxieties. Could she really count on him? Was help from someone like Ryan nothing more than a trap? She had fought far too hard to emerge from her past unscathed, to let him lead her into another tangle of expectations. She felt a deep pit forming in her stomach. "Thanks, but I'm not looking for help from you. I'm learning to do this on my own," she asserted, deliberately firm but aware of the cracks in her declaration. "Is that what you call it?" He mused, his eyebrows arching in a teasing challenge. "Struggling to keep your head above water? I could make things easier, Sarah. You wouldn't have to work 3 jobs just so you can afford the necessities." Her breath hitched. The visceral memories of her struggles collided with his offer. Was he right? Were her efforts in vain? The fabric of her resolve wavered momentarily under the weight of his insinuations. But then she remembered Lily, the foundation of her tenacity built for the little girl she cherished more than anything. "I'm figuring it out, Ryan. I won't trade my independence for a quick fix," she shot back, her voice stronger now, retracing the steps of her newfound security. Yet, even as she stood her ground, uncertainty snaked through her thoughts. Could he really provide the support she needed, or was he merely dangling a seductive offer to keep her entangled? "Then why not let me prove it?" he suggested, closing the distance between them, his voice a velvet whisper tinged with challenge. "Why not allow me back into your life? You might find I'm more helpful than you think." With every word, Ryan pressed deeper, challenging her beliefs and shaking her confidence. She felt the inescapable push and pull of temptation and the remnants of fear that haunted her choices. "I need space, Ryan. I'm not looking to revisit old mistakes," she replied, taking a step back, an act of physical distance mirroring her mental barricades, but as she took a breath to reaffirm her stance, she couldn't shake the creeping feeling that Ryan was not just a harbinger of the past, but a doorway to unforeseen complexities in her journey ahead. With one last look at him, she turned sharply, her mind racing with questions she'd have to confront. How could she ensure she wouldn't repeat those mistakes? And was she truly as independent as she claimed to be, or was the battle only beginning? The bell jangled again, but this time, it seemed to signal more than just the arrival of a newcomer. It hinted at every uncertainty yet to surface in her path. The waitress returned to Sarah's table, her eyes darting nervously between them. "Can I get you anything else?" she asked, her voice thin with apprehension. "No, thank you," Sarah replied, her gaze fixed on the remaining coffee in her cup, the steam curling upwards resembling the weight of her thoughts. The diner felt stifling now, as if the air conspired with Ryan to trap her in a storm of uncertainty. Once outside, Sarah pushed through the din of the bustling street, her focus sharp yet fragmented. The outline of Ryan's figure lingered in her mind, blurring the task at hand, picking up groceries for the week, simple errands that felt monumental due to the emotional weight she carried. Her hands trembled around the shopping list in her pocket, a tangible list of things she thought would ease Lily's life. But now it felt like a tether binding her to that moment, a stark reminder of the balance she had precariously established. She glanced at her phone. A message from her boss popped up. "Are you okay? Your deadline is looming." Stress prickled her skin. She had yet to finish the presentation, a crucial project that could determine her future at work. The last thing she needed was Ryan's reappearance. As much as he made her question her current path, a nagging part of her acknowledged a temptation to consider his offer. That thought struck her as dangerous. Rounding the corner, she noticed a small park with a playground where mothers and their children were laughing, chasing bubbles and swinging freely. The sight jolted her. Wasn't that the kind of life she envisioned for Lily and herself? A simple existence filled with joy and forgetfulness of past shackles. She opened her shopping list again, trying to focus. Bread, milk, yogurt, and an assortment of healthy snacks. There was no room for error. The last time she had lost track of her priorities, she had stumbled down a path marred by choices driven by desperation and need for validation. Lily's laughter echoed in her memory, her little girl's face illuminated with joy over the smallest things. Sarah wanted that for her. She needed to be the rock solid in the waves of chaos. But as she moved toward the grocery store, her heart sank at the thought of accepting help. What would that say about her? That she couldn't manage alone? It was incomprehensible. And yet, Ryan's insinuations hung in the air like a low haze. She could barely fathom what $1 million could do, nor did she want to consider it. "I can do this," she whispered to herself, a mantra against the temptations of the past. But the weight of the unknown pushed against her resolve, creating an internal chaos that shook her composure. She could feel Ryan lingering, his silhouette casting shadows over her choices. By the time she reached the store, she felt an unsettling mix of determination and doubt swirling within her. As she strolled down the aisles, organizing her thoughts, she realized she was more than just a single mother. She was Sarah, a woman who had fought for her independence. The challenges ahead demanded a deeper resolve, an understanding of her own limits and strengths. Maybe Ryan's return wasn't just a test of her independence. Perhaps it was a reflection of the parts of herself she had buried. The sudden helplessness of the unknown had her pausing mid-step. The shelves felt fraught with decisions. Nothing was simple. A glance at the baby aisle caught her breath, memories clawing at the edges of her sanity. There, brightly packaged, was the formula Ryan had dismissed. But what if she couldn't help but wonder this was an opportunity? Could she navigate this new territory without succumbing to the paths of the past? Determination hardened in her chest. She turned toward the checkout, her list conquered, yet her mind still a tumult of questions. As she scanned her purchases, determination morphed into a daunting realization. She had to confront Ryan again. She needed clarity, needed to articulate her boundaries firmly, to ensure her past didn't cast shadows over her present. The question that plagued her as she exited the store loomed larger than any hurdle she had faced. The moment of truth was approaching. Would she stand her ground, reclaim her life, or would the allure of quick solutions draw her back into a life of uncertainty? The street swelled with potential as she took her first steps home, but with each step, the weight of multiple choices bore down on her. What would she decide when forced to confront Ryan once more? The echo of that decision lingered in the air like an unspoken challenge, a test she could feel rumbling closer on her horizon. As Sarah walked home, the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, beautiful yet disconcerting. Each step felt heavier, laden with the expectation of the confrontation ahead. She entered her apartment, the familiar sights of Lily's toys scattered across the floor pulling her heart in two directions. There was comfort in this chaos, yet the uncertainties of her past clashed with her aspirations for a stable future. The grocery bags rustled as she placed them on the kitchen counter, but her mind was elsewhere. The presentation loomed large in her consciousness, insisting on her attention even amidst familial whispers. She glanced at her laptop, the blinking cursor of her unfinished slides a glaring reminder of professional expectations. Yet another deadline added to her growing sense of inadequacy. She breathed deeply, trying to calm the frantic pace of her thoughts. Focus. The word fell heavy as it hit the air. She was the master of her fate, or at least she wanted to be. But what if Ryan returned seeking to muddle everything she'd built? His illusions tasted bitter, yet enticing. The momentary peace was interrupted by a soft giggle from Lily, her voice echoing through the apartment as she played with her dolls, blissfully unaware of the silent turmoil her mother was navigating. The innocence of her daughter tugged fiercely at Sarah's heart, rallying her resolve. She couldn't let uncertainty disrupt their world. As she settled at the kitchen table, she tried to organize her thoughts and priorities. She grabbed a paper and pen, jotting down what she needed for the presentation. Key points, impactful visuals, my value, she muttered under her breath. Each line felt like a step towards reclaiming a part of herself that Ryan's presence threatened to overshadow. The relentless pressure, however, made her question whether her skills alone could carry her against the tide of temptation he embodied. Just then, her phone chimed again. Another message from Ryan, this one lurking in the corner of her mind. Have you thought about my offer? The question hung there, encroaching upon her ability to think straight. Each ding sent ripples of doubt through her. Perhaps she wasn't as strong as she believed. Did she even want to see him? The confrontation would entail peeling back layers of pain and regret, facing the things she had buried deep. But could she transform this moment into power? If she could articulate her truth, fortifying her boundaries against his advances, perhaps this upheaval wouldn't just threaten her stability but serve as a catalyst for growth. Sarah took a moment to reflect on what this meant for her. The external pressures of insecurity and fear taunted her, but deep within, she glimpsed the possibility of decay giving way to bloom. Confronting Ryan was crucial, fueling her transformation not just as a mother but as a professional. It was time to reclaim what had felt so easily lost, a sense of agency. She finished her list and closed her eyes, visualizing the conversation ahead. I am not helpless. That realization surged within her, fierce and resolute. The next step was not merely about maintaining her independence, it was about transcending it, stepping into a powerful version of herself, ready to negotiate her worth. As she prepared for the forthcoming confrontation, a wave of clarity washed over her. She wasn't just standing her ground. She was demanding her value, her intelligence, her relevance. The decision crystallized within her. Vulnerability would not be her undoing. Instead, it would be the vessel through which she could communicate her limits. Determined, she set aside her work for the moment and picked up her phone. It was time to respond to Ryan. Would she emerge victorious, having crafted a narrative of strength from the ashes of doubt? Her fingers hovered over the screen, fear mingling with anticipation as she typed out her reply. Just as her heart raced with the thrill of taking control, an unexpected thought prickled at the edges of her consciousness. Was she ready to handle whatever Ryan might throw her way? In that moment of uncertainty, she hit send. The die was cast. The moment of truth was dawning. She would soon face Ryan again, but this time, she would not falter. Would her resolve hold strong against his charm, or would his words unravel all she had fought for? The ripple effect of their looming encounter loomed larger, reverberating within her as she braced for the inevitable clash. The following morning felt different. The rays of sunlight streamed through the window, but Sarah could feel a distinct heaviness in the air. It wasn't merely the anticipation of Ryan's response, it was a culmination of her internal conflicts converging into a singular moment of truth. She had sent that message, her first step toward reclaiming her power, but the uncertainty churned within her. Lily's laughter echoed from the living room, pulling Sarah away from her spiraling thoughts. She found her daughter sprawled on the floor with various toys, each one a testament to the little girl's vibrant imagination. Watching her, Sarah felt a flicker of inspiration spark. Lily didn't understand the gravity of adult decisions, nor the complexities of relationships. She saw only the joy of building, creating, and navigating her little world. Can I do that? Sarah thought. Could she embrace a childlike simplicity, crafting her own reality while confronting the past? With determination, she poured herself a cup of coffee and prepared to tackle a different challenge the day ahead at work. The presentation was not merely a job requirement, it was an opportunity to assert her capabilities, to demonstrate the breadth of her knowledge, and to stand on her own merit. She needed to highlight not just what she could do, but who she had become. This was about more than just a bullet-point presentation. It was her statement against doubt and expectations, a declaration of her capability. As she pulled her laptop back into view, she reviewed her slides again. The words began to resonate more deeply: leadership, innovation, empowerment. They weren't mere phrases, they defined her. With each revision, she felt a growing insistence that these qualities weren't just professional jargon, they were the essence of who she was. But Ryan's presence loomed large, casting doubt on her hard-won confidence. He was not just a challenge from her past, he represented all the insecurities she thought she had buried. What if he could unravel her, with just a few carefully chosen words? The thought gripped her. But what if he didn't? What if she could stand firm? She turned her focus back to her slides, crafting her narrative. Structured chaos on her screen began to take a clearer shape. She inserted a bold quote, "Success isn't about how much you earn, but how much you believe in your worth." It felt empowering, almost like a talisman against Ryan's impending arrival. He may have wealth, but she possessed something far deeper, the ability to redefine her destiny, brick by brick. As she polished her slides, her phone buzzed once more. It was Ryan, his familiar name blinking insistently on the screen. The fleeting urge to ignore it fluttered through her, to take the high road, maintain her silence. Instead, she felt something deeper. Who was she to allow fear to control her responses? She was ready. She typed back, more assertively, "Let's meet. I have things to say." The reply produced a rush of adrenaline, invigorating her resolve. Every decision she had made, embracing her independence, setting boundaries, and now demanding clarity from Ryan, was shaping her into someone stronger. She had not merely submitted, she had claimed agency. Yet, the moment felt paradoxical, recognizing that her strengths could also paint her into complicated corners. Meeting with him could lead to further conflict, but could it also lead to a pivotal moment of clarity for herself? Just then, the doorbell rang. Startled, Sarah glanced at the clock, still too early for deliveries. Heart racing, she approached the door, each tick of the clock amplifying her apprehension. Was it Ryan? Had he come to confront her before their scheduled meeting? She swung the door open, ready to face whoever stood on the other side. And in that instant, new revelations of her strength awaited her beyond the threshold, perhaps altering her sense of self in profound ways. What she would find could redefine not just her journey forward, but the very landscape of her life. The door swung wide, revealing an unexpected guest, Mrs. Thompson, the warm-hearted patron from the diner. Her gentle smile radiated warmth, a contrast to the anxious swirl of emotions flooding Sarah's mind. "I hope I'm not interrupting," she said, holding a basket filled with baked goods, the sweet aroma wafting into the kitchen. "Of course not. Come in," Sarah replied, her surprise quickly morphing into relief. Mrs. Thompson's presence felt like an anchor amidst the storm of her thoughts, a reminder that connection and support existed outside the confines of past relationships. As they settled in the small kitchen, Mrs. Thompson wasted no time. "I've been thinking about what you shared the other day. You're brave to pursue your dreams, Sarah. But I worry that you're carrying too much alone." The words resonated deeply, stirring a mix of pride and apprehension within her. Sarah had fought tirelessly to forge her path, yet Mrs. Thompson's observation struck a chord of vulnerability. Bravery was one thing, but recognizing her need for support was another layer altogether. "I've just been feeling conflicted. There are so many parts of my life I'm trying to juggle," Sarah admitted, her voice softening. Mrs. Thompson placed a comforting hand on Sarah's. "You're not meant to navigate this on your own. There's strength in asking for help. You're building a life for you and Lily. Let people be a part of that. You'd be surprised how many are willing to lend a hand." The conversation sparked something within Sarah, igniting a realization of her innate strength not just in doing things solo, but in weaving a community of support around her. "You're right. I've been so focused on independence that I've overlooked the possibility of collaboration." The confession felt freeing, an exhale from a tightly wound existence. That evening, as twilight filled her home with a golden glow, Sarah felt a shift within. She revisited her plans for the inherited property, infusing her rekindled spirit into the sketches and notes that now felt alive with possibility. Each line echoed her vision, a vivid tapestry woven with dreams of togetherness, laughter, and a sanctuary for her and Lily. Instead of merely viewing the renovation as a burden, she envisioned it as a collaborative adventure. She reached out to Mrs. Thompson, who gladly offered her contacts for local contractors. With every connection, every word of encouragement, Sarah felt herself stepping deeper into her new reality, a reality that accepted both independence and interdependence. When the day of her presentation arrived, Sarah stood confidently before her colleagues. She spoke from the heart, presenting her ideas with clarity and passion. The atmosphere buzzed with energy as her conviction resonated through the room. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Her ideas sparked debates and enthusiasm. The manager recognized her unparalleled dedication to the project. "Your hard work and insight have obviously paid off, Sarah. We see a future for you here." In that moment, Sarah conquered more than just the presentation. She demonstrated her recognized competence and potential for leadership. She felt fulfilled, embraced by pride that blossomed from her hard-fought journey. Days turned into weeks, each filled with incremental victories, collaborating with neighbors and friends on the renovations, creating a little haven for Lily. More importantly, she found herself more at ease with asking for help. Each nail hammered into the walls layered another brick of confidence into the foundation. She was building not merely a home, but a stronghold of resilience and love. When she encountered Ryan again in her path, it was not as an adversary but as a moment of self-assertion. With newfound clarity, she articulated boundaries and values, asserting, "I'm not the woman you once knew. I'm forging my own journey now, and I can do this on my own terms." And in that confrontation, she stabilized herself, proving that her growth extended beyond mere survival. She had not only transformed her past struggles into motivation but emerged enhanced, capable of redefining her present and her future. As Sarah stood hand in hand with Lily in their renovated living room, laughter echoed off the newly painted walls. Each brushstroke symbolized not just a change of scenery, but a vibrant testament to her transformation and resilience. She achieved not just the physical space she envisioned, but a vivid representation of her strength, independence intertwined with community connection. Sarah had conquered fears, faced challenges head-on, and emerged with a sense of solid confidence as she embraced her role not only as a mother but as a skilled, competent woman forging her path. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending, because your voice matters.